Welcome you. Let's get straight to it today.
Sounds good.
We've got some really interesting, maybe, well, potentially transformative ideas about wealth and mindset we want to unpack.
Yeah, it's this concept that your mind, and maybe your subconscious specifically, acts a bit like a radio receiver.
Exactly, a radio receiver. And the whole idea, which comes from some material discussing something called the Billionaire Brain Wave, is that, well, maybe we're tuned to the wrong frequency.
Right, like maybe we're unintentionally stuck on a kind of scarcity station instead of tuning into abundance.
So our mission for this deep dive is basically to explore this radio mind metaphor.
Uh-huh. And see if we can pull out some, actionable steps from it. The source definitely offers a unique angle on how our thoughts, our beliefs, might actually shape our financial reality.
Okay, so this radio mind analogy, let's break that down a bit more. The idea is the subconscious is constantly picking up signals from everything around us.
Pretty much, yeah. Like it's tuning into different broadcasts. And the source makes this really clear distinction between what it calls lack FM
Black FM, right?
and abundance 101.1.
Okay.
So think of lack FM as the station that's just constantly broadcasting, limiting beliefs, that feeling of not enough.
Yeah, those kind of nagging thoughts. The source gives some really, I think, relatable examples. We've all probably had them.
Oh, for sure.
Things like, oh, I can't afford that. Or, the classic, money doesn't grow on trees.
Right.
It really paints this picture of an internal soundtrack focused on what's missing, on the limitations.
Exactly. And what's interesting, what the source suggests, is that the financial lack we might feel, it might not actually be because there aren't opportunities out there. It could be more about this habit, this ingrained programming of keeping the dial set to lack FM. Like we're just conditioned to listen to the wrong show.
So, okay, how do you even know if you were tuned to lack FM? I mean, these thoughts can feel so automatic, right? Like background noise you barely register.
That's a really key point. The source really pushes for becoming super aware of that internal chatter. Your instant reactions, your go-to thoughts about money.
So noticing the pattern.
Yeah. Are they mostly negative? Do you often catch yourself thinking, like the material says, oh, there's never enough, or I'm always going to struggle with this? Those kinds of repetitive thoughts, those are pretty strong clues that lack FM might be, your default setting.
Okay. So let's say someone listening recognizes that. They think, yeah, maybe I am on that frequency more than I'd like. What's next? This is where that billionaire brainwave idea, the conscious channel surfing, comes in.
That's exactly it. The source lays out this four-stage process for making the shift, and they stick with the radio analogy, which is quite helpful.
Okay.
First stage is awareness. Just actively noticing when your mind jumps to those scarcity thoughts.
Right, catching yourself in the act.
Precisely. Then comes interruption. Making a conscious choice to mentally turn the dial away from that negative broadcast.
Okay, stop listening to it.
Third is calibration. That's about intentionally focusing on and tuning into that other frequency, that abundance 101.1.
Finding the right signal.
Finding it and locking onto it. And the last stage is amplification. Strengthening that new signal so it becomes louder, clearer, more dominant than the old one.
That actually makes a lot of sense. It's framed less like magic, more like adjusting your perception to pick up on what might already be there.
Exactly.
The source seems to really emphasize that abundance isn't necessarily hiding. We just need to get our internal tuner working right to perceive it.
You got it.
Yeah.
So let's get into the practical side. The actual tuning techniques the source suggests.
Okay.
The very first step is about resetting your receiver. Clearing out the mental static first.
Ah, okay. Like cleaning the antenna before you try to get a good signal. Makes sense.
Yeah. The force suggests, for instance, just 10 minutes of daily silence.
Simple, but maybe harder than it sounds for some.
Could be. But it's about quieting the noise to hear your own baseline.
Yeah.
It also mentions mindfulness, just catching those automatic lack FM thoughts as they pop up.
And pattern interruption, what's that exactly?
It's about actively breaking the cycle when you catch a negative thought, like snapping a rubber band on your wrist or just consciously saying stop and replacing the thought, breaking that automatic loop.
Got it. So clear the static first, then what?
Well, once you start getting a bit more mental quiet, the next phase is actively adjusting the dial towards abundance.
Okay, the conscious tuning part.
Right, and the source gives several concrete things to try. Affirmations are a big one.
Like the example they gave, money flows to me easily and abundantly.
Exactly. Saying things like that deliberately to kind of overwrite the old negative programming. Visualization is another.
Right, picturing yourself already operating from that wealthy mindset.
Seeing it, feeling it. And then there's creating the right environment.
What does that mean? Like feng shui?
Maybe partly, but more like consciously choosing to surround yourself with positive influences.
Ah, okay. People, books, maybe even podcasts?
Exactly. Things that resonate with that abundance 101.1 vibe. It's all about feeding your subconscious the right signals.
So you're resetting, then actively tuning. What's step 3?
Step 3 is about boosting the signal strength, making that abundance 101.1 come in louder and clearer, more consistently.
Okay. How do you turn up the volume on abundance?
Well, the source talks about taking aligned action.
Meaning?
Basically acting in ways that match this new abundance mindset you're cultivating. Not just thinking it, but doing things from that place.
Okay, walking the talk.
Pretty much. Gratitude is another big one mentioned. Apparently it acts like a massive signal booster.
Just appreciating what you have already.
Yeah. Focusing on the good you already possess seems to strengthen the connection to attracting more. And I like this one too, celebrating small wins.
Ah, little victories.
Exactly. Even tiny financial positives. Acknowledging them creates evidence, like proof for your brain that, hey, this new frequency is actually working. It builds momentum.
That makes sense. Creates a positive feedback loop.
Right. And then the final piece they mention is clearing the static again, but this time it's about minimizing ongoing interference.
Ah, okay. Because even if you tune in, other stations can still bleed through, right? Noise from the outside.
Precisely. So the source advises maybe limiting exposure to those LAC FM broadcasters.
That could be people, maybe certain news outlets, social media.
Could be anything that consistently pumps out that negativity or scarcity message. It also talks about creating sort of mental shields.
Protecting your frequency.
Yeah, and building resilience. So if some negative static does get through, you can quickly notice it and consciously retune back to abundance without getting derailed for long.
Okay, this is all quite metaphorical, but practical too. But then the source goes a step further, doesn't it? It tries to connect this to some scientific ideas.
It does, and this is where it gets pretty fascinating, I think. It brings in neuroscience, specifically the reticular activating system, the RAS.
Okay, the RAS. For anyone not familiar, what's the quick version of what that does?
So think of the RAS as like the bouncer at the nightclub of your brain.
Okay.
It stands at the door and decides what sensory information gets past the velvet rope and into your conscious awareness. There's way too much data coming in constantly for you to process it all.
Right, it's a filter.
It's a filter. And crucially, it filters based on what you've tagged as important, your beliefs, your focus, your goals.
Yeah, I see where this is going.
Yeah. So the idea here is if you consciously tune your mind to abundance, if you make that important, you're essentially telling your RAS, hey, let through anything related to opportunity, wealth, solutions.
So you literally start noticing things you might have completely missed before because your filter settings were different.
That's the theory, yeah. Your brain starts highlighting possibilities that were maybe always there, but invisible to you when you were tuned to LAC FM.
Wow, okay. That's a powerful idea just on its own. And then they also mention quantum physics. Briefly.
They do, yeah. It's touched on lightly, more as an intriguing possibility, I'd say.
How so?
Well, it hints at the idea from quantum physics that, at the most fundamental level, things exist as waves of probability until they're observed or measured.
Okay, the classic observer effect idea.
Kind of. The source sort of speculates.
Yeah.
Could our conscious focus, our mental tuning, play a role in which probabilities collapse into our experienced reality?
Whoa. Okay, that's definitely a bit more out there.
It is. It's
Yeah.
presented more like food for thought, I think, suggesting maybe there's a deeper mechanism at play between our inner state and the outer world that we usually consider.
Right. Less concrete, but definitely makes you think. So, okay, grounding it again, the source gives examples of people who supposedly operated on this abundance 101.1 frequency.
Yes, they highlight a few. People like Joseph Kennedy, navigating the Great Depression, apparently focused on opportunity, while others saw only disaster. Oprah Winfrey, obviously overcoming incredible adversity with what seems like an unwavering belief in possibility. Even someone like Elon Musk, facing huge challenges and setbacks, but always seeming to operate from this assumption of eventual success and abundance.
So the point isn't that they were lucky or uniquely privileged from the start,
Not necessarily, no.
but that they consciously, or maybe unconsciously, kept their mental dial tuned to that abundance frequency, even when things looked objectively bad.
Yeah, that seems to be the core argument, yes.
Yeah.
That mindset, that internal frequency was key.
Okay. So to help people listening try this out, the source gives some actual exercises, right? Practical things to do.
It does. 3 main ones. The first is called the morning frequency reset.
All right, what's involved?
It's designed for the start of your day. 5 minutes of quiet,
Yeah.
hands over your heart. You actually visualize turning a dial from lack FM to abundance 101.1.
Okay, making it tangible.
Yeah. Then you repeat an affirmation 3 times. I am now broadcasting on the frequency of unlimited abundance. Then you visualize wealth, opportunities flowing to you easily. And finally, you spend a moment feeling gratitude for 3 financial blessings you already have, however small.
So it's like setting your intention and your frequency right at the start of the day.
Exactly. Sets the tone. Then there's the abundance antenna exercise. This one's for when you feel that financial worry creeping in during the day.
Ah, an in-the-moment reset. How does that work?
You literally stand up tall, raise your arms gently like an antenna.
Okay. Might feel a bit silly at first.
Maybe. But you take 3 deep breaths, imagining yourself connecting, reaching out. You say aloud, I am recalibrating to abundance 101.1 now.
Saying it out loud helps, maybe.
Seems to be the idea. Then you ask yourself, what opportunities am I not seeing while attuned to this limiting frequency? And then you lower your arms, feeling more open, more aware.
Like hitting a reset button on your perception right then and there.
That's the goal. And the third one is keeping a financial frequency journal.
Ah, like tracking your progress.
Exactly. Every evening, take a few minutes to jot down. When did I notice myself on lack FM today? What did I do to shift back? What evidence of abundance did I actually notice? Any new opportunities that popped up once I shifted my focus?
That sounds really useful for making it concrete. You see the patterns, you see the shifts, you see the results, hopefully.
Right. It reinforces the process and keeps you consciously engaged with it.
So it really brings it all together. Awareness, interruption, calibration, amplification.
And, the source material wraps up with a really important point.
Which is?
That you're not just a receiver in all this. You're also a transmitter, a broadcaster.
Ah, right. The frequency you're on affects not just what you receive, but what you put out there.
Exactly. The energy, the mindset you broadcast can influence your environment, the people you interact with, the situations you attract.
That's actually a really empowering way to look at it. Tuning into Abundance 101.1 isn't just for you.
Right. It could potentially create positive ripples outwards as well. The core message really is that the wealth, the opportunities, they might already be broadcasting, loud and clear.
We just need to tune in.
We just need to adjust our receiver. That's the essence of it, according to this source.
So summarizing, the big takeaway here is really the power of that intentional mindset shift, this idea of consciously tuning your internal radio to a frequency of abundance.
Yeah, that's the heart of it.
So maybe a final thought for everyone listening to chew on. If you truly, genuinely believed that signals of opportunity and wealth were constantly beaming your way, what would actually change for you? In how you see things, how you act day to day? What bit of mental static, what old frequency might you need to consciously clear out starting today to let those signals come through clearer?
That's a great question to ponder.
Maybe try one of those exercises we talked about. See what happens. It could just be the start of, well, tuning into a whole new reality.